Welcome to the Startup Sessions, the #1 web show and podcast for trusting your gut, breaking the rules, and starting something meaningful. Featuring in-depth interviews with acclaimed creative entrepreneurs that have succeeded at building their own remarkable businesses. Today, I'm speaking with Jeannie Coyle, a remarkable example of what it's like to embrace the life and work you love at any age. Jeannie has had a distinguished career in corporate America, serving as Senior Vice President for HR at American Express, Vice President of Management and Leadership at Bank of America, and Strategic Partner for the Tom Peters Group. She then reset her career by starting her own company to help, in Jeannie's words, remove more of those Dilbert moments from company cultures. And today, we're going to discuss some fascinating topics like embracing career resets, what it means to be a disruptor in your industry, company, or career, and the myth of retirement. And if all that isn't enough, Jeannie's going to share her inspiring story of taking up downhill snow skiing at the age of 64 and making it to advanced skier status in just a few short years. It's all coming to you right now on episode 36 of the Startup Sessions. Welcome to episode 36. Today, my guest is Jeannie Coyle, who is a practical performance and workforce strategist. Now, I've had the pleasure of speaking with Jeannie prior to our interaction here today, and the way I see you, Jeannie, as this incredibly smart and seasoned both corporate person and entrepreneur. So I'm super excited to have you share that perspective with myself and the listeners and the viewers today. I also see you as a very wise businesswoman, someone who's fiercely dedicated to really creating a life and legacy at this point that you desire. And it's fantastic right now. You serve in a big way through what you do now, and you've also figured out a way to do meaningful work that you love to do. So welcome to the show, Jeannie.
Thank you, Michael. I'm just delighted to be here.
I'm delighted that you are. So, very excited about our discussion. You bring this depth of knowledge and experience, and you've also reinvented your own career many times, and you've started a dynamic business of your own. And so we're going to kind of weave those things together in our discussion today. We're going to talk about what it means to be a disruptor in your business. We're going to talk about dealing with career resets. And I think we'll probably get into a little bit of discussion on the myth of retirement for so many of today's workers and this generation today, and coming to terms with just a different way of working and living. So all juicy subjects, and super excited to go into those. Now, let me give Jeannie a proper intro, because you've got so much amazing, incredible experience that you bring to the table. You've had a distinguished background that includes 18 years in the corporate world, including Senior Vice President for HR at American Express. You've served as VP of Management and Leadership Development for Bank of America and Strategic Partner for the Tom Peters Group. Quite a resume. You've also got 30 years of experience consulting and coaching C-level executives on strategy, organization, structure and culture, leadership, and workforce development. You're the co-author of Make Talent Your Business, and you're the founder of your current company, which is Worktelligence. And you write blogs, and you speak, and you do podcasts, and it's just amazing the energy that you have. And I feel like you're someone that's just getting started, but yet you've had this whole career.
And I'm still going. That's what's unusual.
So let's start a little bit about your background in corporate life. You know, you were in the corporate world for 18 years, and you succeeded at a very high level, and then you switched gears and started your own business. What motivated you to do that?
Well, I had a good run in corporate life. I started out, and it wasn't a good job. I was working for an insurance company. Your listeners are not going to believe this, but in the 1970s, in an insurance company in New York, they had separate reading rooms for men and women. And I got into human resources and compensation because I'm really comfortable with numbers and analysis, and everybody else was in lines because they love people. I like people, but, I like making a difference. So I got a nice grounding in the insurance business, but I could feel already that I needed room. I was supposed to go in and grade a job. And I would go in and talk with people, and I would ask questions about what was going on. I would find out that it wasn't the job that needed grading. They had the wrong person in the job. So here I was already, a little bit of a disruptor, because I wanted to solve the problem. I didn't want to do my job description. So I bolted from the insurance company and went to American Express. And that was a playground. And I had a chance to invent and try new things, and had many jobs. And pièce de résistance is I had an opportunity to work for Lou Gerstner. And he's a guy who turned around IBM a couple jobs later. And he wanted to do something in talent development. And at that time, everybody was doing the big 3-ring binders with the succession charts. And he wanted to do better. So I was then head of human resources for the Traveler's Check division. And so he said to each of the divisions, do better. So the big divisions hired consultants and came back with bigger books. And I thought, that doesn't make a great deal of sense. It's not working. Why should we do more of the same thing that isn't working? So I sat down with my president, who was an older guy, wouldn't spend money on consultants anyway. And we just came up with a 1-page and put down people and talked about them and looked at their background and came up with a couple actions. So I'm kind of shaking in my boots, going up to talk with Lou Gerstner. I've got 1 page. And I thought, well, maybe I'm going to get fired. And I thought, well, maybe not, because this is a guy who used to pull the plug on the overhead projector. If people would start, doing those, lots of transparencies, he just wanted you to talk. He wanted you to answer questions. He wanted you to be prepared, and he wanted you to take action. So not only did I not get fired, but I got a job working for him. And that's because he saw that I was different, that I would cut through, that I would hold managers accountable, etc. So that was an early confirmation that I wasn't such an oddball. I was odd for human resources, but that I could click with very, very senior business people. So then I went to Bank of America, and that was much more traditional HR. So I had to work very hard to be in places where I could invent. And I was beginning to feel like I was like the HP thing. I've got to invent, And so I found a few things, but then I looked at myself and said, if I stay in corporate life, I'm just not going to have the opportunity to invent as much as I would like to. And I'm going to get lumped in with traditional HR. And there's a lot of fundamentals and values about that I just don't believe in. We'll talk about that later. So I started my own business in 1986. Were you born in 86 yet?
Of course, yes, I was.
Many of your listeners will not. So I hightailed it. I hightailed it out of corporate life, and I had been thinking about doing this. And so then that got me into lots and lots of resets. So since 1986, I've reframed, restarted, rebranded my business about 5 times. But, always in service of working in corporations, finding those managers who were open to creating an environment where people didn't have to leave corporations to do good work and, operate off their passions. I'm not done with corporate life. I'm ever optimistic, but I'm not Pollyannish. And many of my colleagues are done with corporate life. They just don't think it can be changed. But I'm kind of stubborn. And I've had successes doing it. It's very, very hard to do, but I think I can do more. So that's a little bit of the segue from corporation to my own business.
Okay, I love that. One of the things that I really love too is that, okay, you've taken some great experiences, some mediocre experiences, and it sounds like some, bad experiences from corporate life, from your own experience in corporate life, I should say. And you've taken that to create a business around really serving corporations and the people in those corporations so that they can thrive, so that they can really have a job that has meaning for them while they're in a corporate environment. And I love that because a lot of people, there's a lot of conversation out there that just kind of discounts the possibility of really enjoying your work in that corporate setting. And I've had some great jobs that have been in that corporate setting. And I've had some ones that haven't been great. For me at this phase in my career, in my life, I'm choosing to go out on my own and serve in that way. But I just love that, you're using all of your experiences and your insight and your wisdom, to serve those corporations and help them improve how they do things and serve those people that still want to participate in a corporate setting. What would you say are, if you were to pick like one or two of the biggies that stand out, like the things that you go into a corporate environment and you see over and over again that could be changed to improve that atmosphere? What are a couple of those things that I don't know, you just see it stand out over and over again that you work to improve?
Okay. Well, I think one thing, it's obvious, people know it, but companies don't jump on it well enough. There are a lot of managers who are good people, but they're just not suited to people management. Mm-hmm. They are great. Maybe they're good at projects, they're good at analysis, they've got a lot of brain power, but people are just not their thing. And, actually pretty early on, you can get a sense of that. But I think lots of times people don't pay attention to what they really like to do, and organizations don't give people a good preview of what it's like to manage people. And then they put people in jobs and they wreak havoc. They wreak havoc on people's spirit, on people's energy. They don't connect them with meaningful work. And so the damage goes on and on and on. So I see that way too much. I've seen that, my entire career. And I'm constantly asking companies to think more about that and provide alternative paths for that. And I was listening to a webinar from the Facebook folks, and they're pretty smart about this. So suppose you and I are both, great software engineers, and we both think we want to be managers. Well, we would have an opportunity to really think these through, and we'd both try it. It wouldn't be a promotion. It'd be a different way to spend our lives. And so we both try it, and we both get, believe it or not, an internal coach and an external coach for the first 3 months. Because you got to figure this out from experience. You don't figure out from reading a book. Well, suppose, I just don't get it. It's just not in me to be good at talking with people. I like to fill out the forms, okay? And I like to have the data about people. But sitting down and talking through things with people is not my thing. So I get to go back to being a software engineer. You, however, are pretty good at it. You're not great, but you have some potential at it, and you're willing to learn from your experience. So I just take that as a little vignette. More and more of that needs to be happening. The second thing, and I'm almost at a rant stage on this, is performance management. Way back in the 70s, and I can't believe it, but I was on a trip with American Express, and those were the days when people spent big budgets. So they took not only the executives, but their families to Paris for a trip. And so sometimes I think I imagine this, but it was true. We were on top of the Eiffel Tower, and I was asked to give about a 10-minute presentation on what we call performance appraisal. And I said, well, we got it all wrong. We're looking at the wrong end of the telescope. We're just looking at this assessment at the end where we tell people that they're rated this way and they did this stuff wrong. And we really should be looking at the front end with the goals, and we should be talking with people. Well, that's common sense. Any 5-year-old child would tell you that, but corporations still keep supporting these incredible, complicated processes that employees hate, managers hate. They take up extraordinary amounts of time. And they, were rooted in the 1950s manufacturing. So there's a lot of stuff that's treating people as machine parts and things, not as peoples. And so that's another one that I see. And I'll give you one more. Talent management is all the buzz. And I was thinking about this. HR has just still have an identity crisis. Marketing's been marketing forever. Finance has been finance forever. I think it started out maybe systems, but now it's IT. In my lifetime, we've been industrial relations, we've been personnel, we've been human resources, we've been human capital, we've been human assets, and now the buzzword is talent management. I think there's anything wrong with this picture. But, when you get to talent, again, organizations have over-systematized this. They've made it like a manufacturing type of thing. And so they assess people, they put them in 9 boxes, they put a label on your head, but they don't get into understanding people as unique bundles of talent and thinking about how they get results. How does Michael get results different than Jeannie? What's been the pattern of the experience? They let people go up the silos instead of moving them around. They don't get them into management early to see if it's their cup of tea. I mean, this is basic fundamental stuff, but it's got kind of encrusted over with all this machinery. So one of the things I do is kind of help people salvage this, take off the barnacles, get back to the conversations, and managers really spending time thinking about people in a more sophisticated way. So those are just some of the things. As you can see, I got lots of things to help with.
Absolutely. Well, it's so true. One of the reasons that I began drifting, at least in mindset away from the corporate environment was, I felt like I was a cog in the wheel and just part of this big machine, and I was treated as a number. And to me that work became drudgery. I felt like I was just getting by. And on your website, you even state that I think research shows 8 out of 10 people are disappointed in their work. And to me, that felt like being stuck in a rut. It felt like, I was just hoping things would get better, and they really didn't. And I think that was a big motivator for me to look at other options. And for me, that was starting my own business. So this is an interesting dynamic because I had to go through that entire process of, deciding, do I want to go out and start a project or a business of my own? And if I do, how do I deal with, leaving behind the corporate perks, the expense account, the benefits, the 401k, the salary, and move towards doing my own thing? And, for me, freedom was a key component of that. I wanted to be completely in control of my destiny and create something unique and disruptive and be a game changer. And I didn't feel that I could do that in a medium to large size corporation. What are your thoughts on that? On someone that really how do you find that decision point of can I go and thrive in a corporate environment, or should I go start my own business? I know there's probably no easy answer, but what's your perspective on that?
Well, I think you have to be realistic. You mentioned the book that we wrote, and it was about managers we researched who were really good at developing people while they got the results. They would have been a manager that you would have loved to work for. And if you'd been working for one of those managers, you might have stayed. But when we talked with these managers, many of them from big corporations, they did not represent the way the company operated. And we did research. Only about 10% of managers operate this way. So, part of what I'm trying to do is to get corporations to understand this so they can scale more managers. And, I love Dilbert. And so the other day I had this aha. I think my purpose in life is to remove Dilbert moments from organizations. I mean, we all laugh at that because it's just crazy, horrible stuff that happens. I mean, dumb bosses doing dumb things and dumb systems that tie people down. So here's where I'm going with this. You have to be realistic. If an organization is working off this machine model and has all these traditional systems, and there's no part of the organization where you can find some of these good managers, which will give you the elbow room and really unleash your passion and give you a chance to contribute. If you can't find those managers, then you may need to leave. And in my coaching, I've recommended that to people. I worked with a wonderfully creative designer, and she was working for a company, and her job was to work with supermarkets. So here's this brilliant designer, and supermarkets like a little bit of design, but not much. So we talked about, it's not going to happen for you here. So, find it outside your job, which she did with some projects. And ultimately, even that won't be enough. And of course, she started her own firm. Okay. So you just need to think it through. And I think it's harder with big companies. Medium size, it very much depends on the top leader. So watch your top leader and don't watch what they say. Watch how they operate. Look for things. Do bad managers get promoted? I mean, look for the telltale clues of an environment and a culture that just is not creating the kind of place where you can do your best work. Then fallback is, are there any managers where at least you could do it for that manager? And the other is there another company? I mean, sometimes small companies haven't really fallen into all these bad habits. But always go back to match. What is your passion? What is your element? What is it that you really want to do? Because you could even be working in a corporation that's well managed, but it still doesn't have the work that makes your heart sing. So you just got to sort that out.
Mm-hmm. Sort it out. I love it. Great. Yeah, for myself, I've worked in small technology startup companies. Many aspects of that were just, fantastic in that I was given a tremendous amount of flexibility and responsibility. And also with that came a huge lack of process. They were like, hey, if you want process, develop the process. And you got rewarded. You got rewarded for that.
Right.
And it was honestly, it was a lot of extra work on my plate, but I loved it. So it didn't necessarily feel like bad work. And I've worked for big companies before where there's been like process overload. So that's a very hard transition for me personally to make. Once I was loving the startup world, it was very hard to go work for a bigger company with all these processes. So I think you do just kind of find your sweet spot in there through the different career resets that you experience in your life. Mm-hmm. So good advice for people that are out there assessing where's the best fit for me in a corporate job. Is it in a big company? Is it in a startup? Or is it in creating my own thing? Uh-huh. I think in any of those scenarios, this is a key. We touched on this the other day, but being a disruptor. Let's talk about that for a minute. Jeannie, okay. What does that mean to you, being a disruptor?
Being a disruptor is being true to my values, being true to what my gifts were. And my example at the insurance company, my gifts was not to think in a little box. It's to think big picture. It's to go back to strategy. It is to see within whatever role I'm in how much elbow room I have to disrupt. And sometimes there's not much elbow room. And the insurance company was very clear I wasn't going to have it. At American Express, I had room. And I could use my unique and unusual way of operating and thinking. I could prove myself to, the big guys and gals that I could stay up with them intellectually, but that I could cut through and create things that weren't process heavy. In fact, Gerstner said to me once, just enough process and not 1 ounce more. Now, he was a very, very enlightened person. In most organizations, processes are well over-engineered. So there I had the opportunity. But even at American Express near the end, I had this wonderful job working for him, but he changed my job into more of a traditional control and command of the HR department. And we had the discussion, and I said, this is not me. This does not use my strengths. This does not use my gifts. So let's work out a plan for me to leave. We did. And so I also wanted to move to California. So at Bank of America, it was pretty clear that at that time it was very process heavy, that it didn't operate off my values. Because some of my values are, most people are intelligent and will do good work if you can get out of their way, but provide what they need to do good work. And at that time, that was not really the way Bank of America operated. So right then, I said, well, I can do some good work, but I'm going to have to see if there's anything here that feeds my soul and gives me an opportunity to do what I do best. And I found a few projects there, and I did some amazingly inventive things. But it was clear that it wasn't often enough, and so that's when I went outside and started my own company. Then in my own company, the reason I keep resetting is because I do work at the strategic level, but I can be viewed as traditional HR. So I'm always resetting to help people understand what I bring to the party that's different. And then there's this thing that's going on. You said at the beginning, I have lots of experience, and I keep ripening, and I hope I'm not getting rotten with all this experience. But, I've learned throughout the years that things that I thought were workable were okay, but maybe all these new things, all these assessments, all these 360s, all these products that are being brought, maybe they're really adding value. Now I'm trusting my gut, and I'm seeing that they're overdone. They need to be stripped away. They're like the accessories. They're not the heart of what needs to happen. And, I'm just going to go in. I'm going to say what I think. I'm going to see if, people will step up and help me, help them innovate and do things differently. And so I guess my age and my experience is giving me this latest reset, which is, if you want to work with me, you got to look at having good work for people. You got to clear the decks. You got to have good managers. And, sometimes people are saying, oh, yeah, it's because of the millennials. They won't take anything else. Well, everybody wants this. I don't care what age you're at. You want to make a difference. You want to use what you're capable of doing to get an impact. You want to matter. You want people to treat you as if you have a brain in your head and that you're trustworthy. And a lot of what is in organizations seems to be driven more by fear, and we got to keep people tied down so they don't make mistakes. That is a no-win proposition. No-win proposition.
Okay. Cool. So you're very much, from my perspective, then, in your own business, you're a bit of a disruptor. When you come in and you talk to organizations about the way they do business and the ways that you can help them improve, that's your who you are and what you bring to the table can be disruptive to them, but it can be a positive disruption. That word is a funny one. Disruptive, a few years ago to me might have meant, the kid in class that keeps getting in trouble and sent to the principal's office. Now it's a buzzword. It's like the companies that are the most cutting edge companies in the world are seen as disruptors, and that's a good thing, So it's interesting how to think about. I think it's important to begin thinking about, if I'm an employee, if I'm a business owner, how can I be a disruptor in my industry? I think that's a really important thing to think about. Otherwise, there's a lot of companies, there's a lot of competition out there, and it's important to really, I think, be who you are and use that to your strategic advantage to be a disruptor in your industry. And I think that's one of the things I love that you do that. You're using everything about who you are, your experience, your work experience, and you're bringing that to people as a strategic advantage for your company. It's fantastic.
Well, thank you. I'm a sort of a microcosm of disruption because I am a solo consultant. But, I used to worry that I was too much of a rebel, and I read a book that said there's a difference between a rebel and a revolutionary, or maybe it's the other way around. One just wants to blow everything up, and the other wants to get on the other side of what's not working. And so I'm very good at getting on the other side of what's working, and since I don't sell products, that's not what I go in to do. I help people figure it out themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's very, very helpful, because you got to take people where they are. But if you just leave them where they are, they don't make progress. But if you go in and say, well, this brand spanking new model of change is, this will get you where it is. Follow what I do. I'm the expert. That doesn't work either. And my clients have given me very, very nice compliments about, you're just chock full of expertise, but you don't foist it on us. You help us learn what we need to do to make the change. And to me, that's very, very exciting. And, when I started out in my career, I wondered if I was going to have enough opportunities to do what I wanted to do. American Express was different, very innovative. But in the 70s, there were whole industries that were changing: insurance, banking, healthcare, where you didn't want a disruptor because things were fine. You just needed to get a little bit better at what you were doing. Mm-hmm. And, that's when re-engineering and this engineering mindset worked. Not all that well, but it worked a little bit. And now it's exactly the wrong mindset, but we have holdovers of it. If we just have more process, if we just throw more product at things, things will get better. Not so. So my day has come.
Your day is here.
My day has come.
All right. So I want to kind of go into a discussion that could be interesting about the myth of retirement. So the last company that I worked for was a big technology company, and I was there for 4 years. And the first year that I was there, I saw them outsource but a large portion of their IT department. And the very next year, I saw them outsource portions of HR. And the very next year, I saw them outsource portions of marketing, which I was like, how can you possibly outsource people who don't understand your business and what you do? And the following year, I was laid off, and they took my role, what I did, and they gave it to other sales and business development people in the organization and just put more on their plate. So there seemed to be this ongoing, I'm not sure it was the best thing for the culture, but it was this ongoing trend in this specific company of constant churn and turmoil and doing more with less. Do you see that as an industry trend, or do you see it as something that's temporary? Do you see it just here and there, or is it like all over the place? What's your perspective on that?
Well, I think companies are getting a little bit smarter about outsourcing. Again, it's a simplistic model.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of things and then keep your attention on what's important. But it sounds like in this case, the thinking was not that good, because in this case, marketing might have been the thing that you should have kept. And in HR, there's parts of HR that are quite strategic, and you shouldn't outsource that. So I think companies are still outsourcing, but I think they've learned that they've made some mistakes and that they need to be more careful and more strategic about what gets outsourced. So I think that is happening. But in general, companies are very gullible about the solutions. Say, for example, re-engineering. People read books the thing is, my executive just read a book on a plane, so he's going to come back and we're going to implement this whether than it makes sense or not. And even total quality makes sense in a manufacturing environment where you're moving things from one to another. But in an organization like marketing, which is about thinking and creation and innovation, you don't want to put in total quality. That doesn't make any sense. So people are still subject to doing things that don't make sense. And particularly when it comes to people, because everybody thinks they know what to do, and there's just a plethora of products out there. Mm-hmm. So, as usual, it takes really strong leadership at the top And one of my latest pet peeves is engagement. I mean, engagement was invented by consultants to sell surveys. And even the data that people are showing is simple correlation. It's not cause and effect. So people are spending an enormous amount of time on surveys and then coming up with these overly simplistic things to do to engage more employees. And if you just go stick to your knitting and you say, well, in my organization, I've identified the jobs, I've created work that's important, I've given people good bosses, I'm getting out of their way, I'm giving the opportunity to deliver, they're working with metrics that make sense, they're pumped, they're doing it. You do all that and you will get engagement. But people, again, are starting at the wrong end of the telescope, and they're doing the survey and saying that's going to be that's the end all be all. And I'm not against surveys. I think they can be helpful. But like a lot of things, they have unintended consequences. In some organization, the 360 interviews and the surveys, it's okay, well, that's when I'm going to hear from employees. It's like, do you ever sit down and talk to them? And particularly the employees that are interacting with your customers, don't you think that's worth a conversation? And I bet the information that you get from them is going to be extraordinarily useful. So that's what companies like Bank and others do. You know, they kind of let all this buzz and the trends and everything float around, but it doesn't distract them from the essentials and from the tough strategic decisions that they need to make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you think of some examples of companies out there that are extraordinary in the way that they understand both their customers and their employees, and create a culture that really represents and weaves together, just this really, I guess, good formula that serves both their internal people and their customers?
Well, is one locally.
Okay.
I think they're an absolutely terrific organization, and they bring all the pieces together. You know, they have wonderful design of their stores, but they didn't stop there. They thought through the work, and that is one of my big things, think through the work. And so when they thought about the work, they said, well, in most banks, you have people who are specialized. We're going to have universal tellers, and they're going to be able to do everything for the customers. They're going to be, multifunctional. We're going to pay them more. They're going to get great benefits. We're going to give them wonderful recognition. We're going to support the environments that they're in, not just the physical environments, but everything about their work. And they collect a lot of information about customers, and they talk a lot to frontline people, and they act on it. So they've got this whole sort of, virtuous circle around the customers and the employees who serve the customer, and they're constantly paying attention to it, and they're constantly getting better. And they're also doing a good job of acquisition. They're not getting so big that they can't take the time to provide this culture in this way of operating to the companies that they acquire. And that's hard work. They pay extraordinary attention. So I would say that, and I'm a customer there, so I go in and I experience the customer service. I haven't peeked under the hood as much with Les Schwab, but I've done a little bit of reading about it, and I highly suspect the same type of thing is going on there. Yeah. That they are pay attention to their customers, they pay attention to their frontline people. They provide management that, old word, empowers people to do the right thing by the customer. I'm always astonished that I can go in there twice a year and they'll take my snow tires on and off and they won't charge me. Yeah. I am so loyal to that organization. And then I've been doing a lot of research about Google and Facebook. Now, they're new, so they started from the get-go. They didn't have a lot of encrusted processes. They know they have to innovate or die. So they are very, very good at attracting, highly talented people. But again, they create environments where they can do good work. They make sure that people have an opportunity to keep growing. which is, a biggie for me. If people can't keep learning and growing, that takes a lot of motivation out of your workforce. They're both very, very good at that. And then they do unusual things, like the story I told you about Facebook, of moving people into management and supporting them and taking them out if it's not their thing. So, you see things in the press about all their wonderful perks, and that's good copy, that they've got ice cream stores and all that. But if you really look at how they provide work for people, how they provide development on the job, they even give people at Facebook the opportunity to decide what their next job is. And so if they've worked on a great team and they've done good work and they've come to a point where they've learned a lot, they can go shop around for the next team that they want to work with. They don't have to get into the job posting system and go through all that rigmarole. And they trust people to be able to do that because they're capable and they make good decisions. So, those are some of the things that I've seen lately.
Okay, great. Thanks for those examples. And for the listeners and viewers that are not familiar with the Pacific Northwest, Umpqua Bank is a regional bank. I'm actually a customer too, Jeannie. And
really?
I'm a customer because of what you were talking about and the experience that they do provide and the customer service that they do provide. I used to be a customer of Bank of America, and it just got to a point where there was such a gap between what Umpqua Bank, a smaller regional bank, offered in terms of customer service and what Bank of America offered that I went and closed all my accounts at Bank of America. It was just like, I gave them a chance to step up to the plate, but they didn't take it. So, and Les Schwab Tire Company is also a regional tire company. So this is a perfect example of a tire company, pretty basic, that has gone over and above to treat their employees and their customers in an exceptional way. I'm also a customer of Les Schwab Tire, and when I get a flat tire, I can drop into any one, and they'll fix it, they'll replace it free of charge. They're just this great company that's doing great things, and they do tires and brakes. So you don't have to be in the latest innovative technology company to create an atmosphere and a company that continues to grow and expand. It can be pretty much on anything, I think, as long as you're willing to put in the processes and give people opportunity and an environment to succeed. They'll do that. People want that. Okay. Jeannie, this has been good. This has been really good stuff. The thing I think I want to end with you is, do you mind if I share with people your age?
Oh, not at all.
It's kind of a setup question. Well, you told me. You told me. I think this is fantastic. You're 69 years old. And my dad worked for the same company for over 40 years. He retired with, a pension plus Social Security. And things are changing for my age group. I haven't worked for a company that's ever had a pension plan. I see things all the time about, Social Security being insolvent sometime around the year 2030. And so things are changing. And for me, doing work is about two things. It's about making a living, it's about the money, and it's also about serving and doing work that makes me feel alive. And when I speak to people like yourself, you are very much alive and passionate about what you're doing. And you're doing this at what our culture would say, oh, you know what? Jeannie should be retired and living on a golf course and, going to the beach. But you're like in it. You're like fully engaged in what you do. And I'm just interested a little bit in your perspective because the culture should say that, it's time for you to relax, kick back, enjoy yourself. But my sense is that you are enjoying yourself in that you're fully engaged in work that you love.
You bet. And just to dispel the myth that I'm a workaholic, I really do have fun. I learned to downhill ski at 64. Now, this is from my friend who's going to be 90, and has skied 77 years. And that's a whole other story, how engaged he is. And he's never retired. He says never retire. But, life is changing. You may have heard that there's a second middle age. And the second middle age is from 65 to 85. And there are lots of people with energy, with passion, with financial means, and gifts that aren't finished. And I fit that profile. And I have lots of friends that retired. And, people make different choices, but I'm not done. I still have music left. And I grew up in northern Ohio, so I have to be careful that I'm not following what my Ohio friends said. They see me as very stoic. And they said, well, Jeannie's the kind of woman, if her leg was frozen to the pump, she would saw it off herself. Isn't that grotesque? And so every once in a while I check myself and say, well, am I just being stubborn and stoic to think that I can impact corporations to have fewer Dilbert moments and create wonderful environments? And I am a little stubborn, but I'm not Pollyannish. So I pick my companies, I pick my clients, I pick my moments, but I still think I can make a difference. And standing back, I do worry about companies. I don't have children, but I have friends who have college-age children, and out of 6 of them, only 1 is even considering going into a company. They're going to NGOs, they're going to education, they're becoming entrepreneurs right out of the ballpark. And God bless them, I think that's terrific. But what is going to happen to the United States and our economy if the best and brightest say, no way, I'm not going to go work there? That is a significant problem. And the government's already having this problem. They can't get talented young people to join the government. Yeah. I'm not tackling that one. I'm just tackling, corporations. But and so I have a lot of fun. I do a lot of things with my friend who's 90. We bike, we dance, we do all kinds of things. So, I'm certainly not all about this. I'm about life, but this is an important part of my life. I'm not ready to give it up yet.
I love that. All right. Jeannie, this has been fantastic. How about we go into our lightning round of questions to wrap things up?
All right, I was put on my glasses because this is the one place I have a few notes. Okay, shoot.
What's the most influential book for you, right now or ever?
Okay, this is going to be a surprise. I found out, even though I wrote a management book, I'm done with leadership books. I learn about leadership from biography and fiction. So the most influential book was a 6-volume history that Churchill wrote about the Second World War. And it's his diaries, it's his letters, and so what a picture of leadership under incredible dire situations. But I also learned a lot about strategy real time. If you want to talk about a complicated strategy, it's strategizing a war where you're losing and everything's against you, and just lessons out to kazoo. So that made and continues to make an extraordinary impact on me.
Okay, thank you. Best conference or industry event and why?
Okay, I used to go to Human Resource Planning Society conference because that was more strategic, creme de la creme HR people, and I found new ideas and I learned from the luminaries, but I think I'm surpassed that. And so I noticed in some of your programs, people have mentioned some incredibly exciting, creative conferences. So I'll come back around to you because I'm going to be shopping. I need something that's new for me, that expands my mind. I mean, my mind is pretty expansive anyway, but I think I'm going to be looking for something more creative.
Great. Most effective strategy for growing your business?
It's what we've been talking about all along. It's, being in my element, knowing what I love to do, what I do best, and then being realistic and understanding that this is a niche market. This is not for everyone. So it's either the right companies, the right leaders in the company, very progressive HR people who stand back and say, there's a better way. And I want a smart person to help me figure that out. So, I'm at the point in my career, I'm not trying to grow a huge business with thousands of customers. I want a few good customers who need what I have to offer. So that's the focus. It's focus and doing what I love best.
Great. Favorite business tool or resource?
I really like the Smart Brief for Leadership. I'm a voracious reader, and one of my gifts is I have a brain that makes a lot of connections. That's why I'm good at strategy. And Smart Brief on Leadership, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a news source that pulls from Harvard Business Review, the Harvard blog, and a lot of different things, and it gives you a headline and a little snippet. And so it's a way to dip into a lot of high-power, really good news without having to go to a lot of different places.
Great. And this is my favorite question because I like to bring adventure into as much of what I do as I can. So tell us about either your most recent exciting adventure or your favorite hobby.
Okay, well, this is both my favorite new hobby, skiing, and also an adventure because at 64, several of my friends were aghast. They said, you cannot do this at your age. You're going to, break an ankle. I got in ski boots, and I said, I may break everything, but I'll never break an ankle. And it was an adventure because I loved it. But a couple things. First of all, it's a little bit like meditation for me because I have a very, very active mind. So when I'm skiing, I have to pay attention, because otherwise it can be dangerous. But I'm up there in the mountain with the snow, and it's just a tonic for my brain. The second thing is throughout my life, I've been a learner. But a lot of it's been, my brain and how I think and whatever. And even though I showed some little bit of promise athletically when I was growing up, I never got good at anything. I was okay at ice skating, okay at diving, okay at roller skating, but I never took lessons. I never got good. So I decided with skiing, I was going to take the lessons, I was going to get good, and I was going to move from beginner to advanced. And last year I got high intermediate. Next year I'm going to be advanced. So that's a source of great pride for me. I like that.
Wow, that's fantastic. I'm a huge skier as well. My dad had me on skis as soon as I could walk, and so I love the sport. So maybe I'll see you up on Mount Hood this winter.
Oh, we'll do it together. I love that.
All right, Jeannie. So I'm going to put the show notes for your site and how people can connect with you for this episode. Anything else that you want to leave us with in terms of what you're most excited about for your business? Make sure everybody gets the link to worktelligence.com. But what's the thing you're most excited about for Worktelligence right now?
Making a difference.
Okay.
I think there is so much demand for what I do, but it's not necessarily felt demand. So I want to find some places where I can do my thing. Because you said at the beginning, I have all this wisdom. I'm much more confident about it than I ever was, and I can help people cut through all this, too much process and remove those Dilbert moments. I want to get rid of more Dilbert moments. They're just
I love it. Removing the Dilbert moments. Maybe that'll be the name of this episode, Removing the Dilbert Moments. Great. Thank you so much, Jeannie. Jeannie Coyle on the Startup Sessions today. I really, really have enjoyed this discussion. We've covered a lot of ground, and it's been highly entertaining and actionable. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I too have enjoyed it immensely.
Fantastic. All right, everyone, thanks so much for listening and viewing today. We'll see you on next week's episode of the Startup Sessions. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to head on over to thestartupsessions.com for a full recap of all our episodes, including links to amazing resources for each guest, thoughtful and provoking blog articles, and many other great resources. Thank you so much for listening and watching. And if today's guest can create a meaningful business and achieve a life of freedom through a business with soul, why can't you?